closing the pay gap here has been one of the top priorities for the U.S. women's national soccer team. And they recently reached a historic pay agreement with the U.S. Soccer Federation. We're joined now live by two-time Olympic gold medalist, World Cup champion, and former goalie for the U.S. women's soccer team, Hope Solo. She's also joined by her attorney, Rich Nichols. Hope, thank you so much for being with us today. Rich, you as well. It's great to see you both. Hope, last month the U.S. women's soccer team, of course, the soccer team reached a $24 million settlement with the U.S. Soccer Federation. And many people have looked at this deal and they've said, hey, this is a huge success. But Hope, you've described this as being heartbreaking and infuriating. So what about the settlement here fell short for you?
Well, you have to understand that this was a long fight in the making. We started the fight back in 2015, and at the onset of the fight, we said, no matter what, no matter how difficult it is, we are going to do whatever we can to change the landscape for women throughout the United States, throughout the world, and for future generations. And in doing that, it was our goal to set a precedent moving forward. And that is the only way that we can really change the workforce and what's going on with women in the workforce, is by setting a precedent in the court system. And so we knew it would be a long fight, a long battle. We knew it would take a lot of work, and we'd have to have attorneys, working night and day on this, and we had to have patience. But we had to set a precedent to create major change. And when there became a settlement, not only was the settlement not great because of the $24 million, and it was only a fraction of what we were fighting for, and a fraction is going to cheat a lot of players in the back pay that they're owed. But also, there's conditions on the settlement. So when you have a settlement and there's conditions for equal pay, that is not equal pay. And that is what is so infuriating, because you can't say there's a settlement yet, because we don't know if U.S. Soccer and the players are going to meet those conditions and the contingencies. And some of them are very, very difficult to meet. Something like FIFA has to agree to equal pay. FIFA is not a part of United States Soccer Federation, so they really are a third party in this, and they have no control if FIFA can pay equal prize money to the men and the women. So some of these conditions, who knows if they're going to be met. So for me right now, there is no settlement until these conditions are met, and there's no precedent set in the court system.
Yeah, I can hear the frustration in your voice. It's apparent there, and you've been fighting for years now to close the pay gap between the women and men's national soccer team. Hope, what has it been like for you? Tell us more about the experience. What are some of the biggest challenges that you've faced trying to make the situation more equitable?
Well, I think some of the biggest challenges is honestly the story that's told in the media. Because this is a hard battle, and it takes months and years and hours of reading court documents and papers. And I think, at this point in America, we want to celebrate, these wonderful athletes, this class action lawsuit. They're some of the most high profile women footballers in the world. It's a very popular team. And so I think it's really easy to say, well, you know what, let's all just celebrate this settlement and move forward so that we all can go back to just playing soccer. And what really is going on is the Federation waited a really long time. They got rid of some of the veteran players, younger players came through the system, and they're not as invested in the fight. They're not as perhaps knowledgeable about the fight. And it's really easy when you take a vote and you have a bunch of young players on the team to just kind of move forward because people are happy to get a paycheck again and just, compete in the World Cups and the Olympics. And that is something to be very proud of, to represent your country in World Cups and Olympics. But at the same time, I think what the media is doing is they want to celebrate it just so that everybody can move on. And in reality, we're not where we need to be whatsoever. And I think it's irresponsible of the media. I know that it takes a lot of hard work to do investigative journalism and to get the facts out. And sometimes there's a lack of resources. But we're still in the court system. I was the first athlete to file against their employer for the Equal Pay Act and Title VII, and now I'm the last one standing. And it does feel quite lonely sometimes, especially when the class action suit is being regarded as this great victory for women. So it's been really tough. It's been emotional. It's taken an emotional toll, a financial toll on me. It's hard work, but I'm definitely committed, because this was never about us. It wasn't about the players getting a bunch of money. It was about setting the future generations up so that they don't have to continue to go through this fight. And this was the team, I thought, that was going to break that barrier. And I thought this was a team to do that because of their popularity and because of the support behind them. The marketing support, the commercial support, and obviously the media support. So I really thought this was a team that was going to make it happen. And now it's up to somebody else to get it done, or another team. Who knows what's going to happen in the future? But we have not set up future generations yet.
I know that the legal system can be so frustrating, and I have to commend you for standing strong and for being brave in your fight. And Rich, I want to go ahead and bring you in right now because both you and Hope have a pending lawsuit against the U.S. Soccer Federation. So how does this lawsuit compare to the one that we've been discussing, the $24 million settlement?
Yeah, I think it's very important to note that Hope was the first one to file her lawsuit back in August of 2018. We did ask the team to join us. We got crickets as a response. They've never responded to anything that we've asked them to do with regard to our lawsuit pursuing equal pay. But Hope was the first one to do it. And I think what's really important for the public to understand is that that settlement was not a settlement for equal pay. They settled the litigation. They settled the litigation for $24 million. They did not settle for equal pay. There are three conditions that have to be met, all three of which are draconian, that will probably never be met before the women get equal pay. First, they have to agree to a joint collective bargaining agreement between the men's union and the women's union. That'll never happen. Next, FIFA has to agree to pay World Cup championship bonuses equally to the men and the women. Right now, the men get $38 million if they win the World Cup. The women get $4 million. FIFA is never going to agree to equal World Cup championship money. And then the third thing that they have to agree to was the critical issue in the lawsuit, which is what comprises equal rate of pay. So both sides are going to have to agree to what monies have to be put into the pot to equalize the money. And the team's counsel didn't properly argue in the lower court because they didn't properly argue that performance bonus money should be included in the equal rate of pay. So before equal pay is a reality, those three conditions have to be satisfied, and I just don't see it happening. So as usual, Hope was the first to file the lawsuit, and she's the last one standing. Our suit continues in the federal court in San Francisco, and we're going to fight to the end.
Hope, I have 30 seconds here, unfortunately. So quickly, I want to get your thoughts on this because the gender pay gap impacts women in all industries. So what is your overall message when it comes to these women, just like yourself, who are currently standing up to fight for equal pay?
We just have to keep fighting. We have to keep standing up. We have to keep going to our employers. We have to file, complaints with the EEOC. We have to do whatever it takes to set up the younger generations because we will continue to be down this road, on this path, a very slow path moving forward until something is done and there is a precedent set. So everybody has to keep going to their employers and standing up. It's going to take all of us, that's for sure.
I wanted to go ahead and leave you with this statistic on average because this to me was startling. A woman has to work until she is 72 to make the same amount of money that a man makes by the age of 60. Former U.S. women's national team goalkeeper Hope Solo and her attorney Rich Nichols, thanks so much for being with us.